you guys, it's Jennifer. Welcome back to my Flagstaff home. I'm here today for another video about pine needle baskets. Today, I'm answering the question of whether you can use green pine needles in your pine needle baskets. Well, the answer to that is yes, but only if you know a couple of important things. So when you find fresh pine needles, hopefully you're not picking them out of trees, but when you find fresh pine needles, you may be thinking, oh, that vibrant dark green color will be so amazing in a basket. The problem is that those needles contain moisture. And if you use them as is, and you can just start stitching with them because they're flexible and you might think you've hit the jackpot with this, but if you stitch with them as is, the basket is eventually going to dry out. Those needles are eventually going to dry out, and then the pine needles are going to shrink. And what you're going to end up with is a basket that's very loose. All of those tight stitches that you made, all that elbow grease that you put into making each stitch perfectly tight is just going to be a waste of your time because the whole basket is going to get loose. So what you have to do first is dry them completely. And it is very important that you do this in a dark place, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But you're going to dry them out until they're nice, really dry, and they're going to be brittle. And then you have to rehydrate them again. So you want to make sure that, all the moisture is out of the center of the pine needles, and it takes a long time. If you put, a bunch of green pine needles in your garage or in a closet or whatever, it can take weeks, months maybe, for them to completely dry out, but you've got to get them to dry all the way through. Then you're going to rehydrate them by putting them in water and soaking them for an hour, just like I recommend in my tutorial video, which, by the way, I will link right here and also in the description box. So you rehydrate them so they're flexible again, and then you can work with them. So that is the first and foremost thing that you need to be thinking about. So you're going to notice after you've dried them that the color fades. It's just what happens. In fact, I'll show you a basket with the green pine needles. It's not that same dark, vibrant color, and the only way you're going to get that is if you do it by dyeing them. Some people dye their pine needles. I don't. But anyway, you really can't maintain that dark green color that way. Remember that when you soak your needles, if you're not treating them with glycerin, then when you soak your needles, the basket always shrinks a little bit when you're using wet needles. When you're all finished, it shrinks, the needles shrink a little bit and it loosens up. If you want to prevent that, you can treat your pine needles with glycerin. I will link that video here and in the description box. And that way you have needles that stay flexible without soaking them in water, and then the basket won't shrink afterwards. So here's a fun fact, and it can also be a little bit problematic too. And that is that green pine needles will stay green. Even after you've dried them, they will stay that light green color that they turn to as long as they stay out of sunlight. If you put those green pine needles in a window, or like if I took this basket here that has a nice green stripe, if I put that in a window or if I had it outside, it is going to turn tan. It will absolutely happen. I've done it before by accident, and the work I put into making a stripe or a pattern with green pine needles was all for naught. So what you want to do is you either need to keep those pine needles and the resulting basket out of a window, out of sunlight, no place where sun will ever hit it, or the easier thing to do is just buy some UV spray. Make sure that the UV spray that you get has a matte finish. I've tried it with the shiny finish and it just looks weird. You've got this really nice natural material that you're using on your basket, and then it's got shine. It's bizarre looking. So make sure you get a UV spray that has a matte finish. You're going to spray, you can either spray the entire basket, or with this one, I just sprayed the stripe and on both sides. And then that way it will stay green. Now, if I intended to have this near a window, or if I, just wanted to be on the safe side with this, I would probably spray it maybe once every couple of years or something, just to make sure. If the fact that you have a green basket or a pattern with the green needles is really important to you, then you want to make sure that the sunlight doesn't ever affect it and ruin your hard work on that. Just make sure that you spray either the entire basket or the green part fully. You want to make sure that it is really, really nicely covered. And then you also want to make sure you dry it completely. But here's the thing, that spray, it's really fumey. So do that outside, or it was middle of winter when I was using it last, and I went in my garage and sprayed it, and then I left it in the garage, and I ended up having to open the garage door like 5 hours later just to let that stink out of the garage. It really is very strong. So I would just recommend that you do it outside, not in the sunlight, but under covered patio or something like that until it is fully dried. And then I've tested it before. I've taken a basket that I had green on, and after I've treated it, I've set it out in the sun for hours, and it actually will hang on to the color. So I don't know how long it would last. I don't know how long the UV spray holds up, but I know that when I left it out in the sun for several hours, it was fine. So have you ever tried using green pine needles? I would be curious to know how it went for you. If you have some other way of keeping the needles green, keeping them from fading. Is there something I don't know about with how to keep them that dark, vibrant green color that they start out being? I would love to hear from you, so please comment in the space below. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe. And once again, thanks for coming to my Flagstaff home, and we'll see you again. Take care, you guys. Bye.